This is the art of startup war. And my name is Brian McMahon, your host and sensei. Here is what we know. 98% of startups will fail every single day, and mostly due to reasons outside your control. At the Expert Dojo Startup Accelerator, we look to even up the playing field by sitting down with the greatest minds in startup investment right here in our studio in Silicon Beach, where we look to shine a light on your path to success. Now, our guests each week have invested millions of dollars into startups and are the most respected investors in the world. Now, they share all they know with you, the listener. So join us on Tuesday mornings at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, starting off your week winning the war against startup failure. Welcome back. Another week, another incredible investor, and another opportunity for you to find out about the world of investing. Now, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to change and make it way more interesting because we've been focusing on traditional investment for a hell of a long time. We focused on venture funding, getting loans for your business. We focused on angels. We focused on government grants, every damn thing you can possibly think of to make your business grow. What we have not spoken about, and we are way overdue trying to go through it, is cryptocurrency. Is how do we go into the world of ICOs, which companies are good for ICOs, which companies aren't good for ICOs, but most importantly, what do investors think when companies are approaching them when they're potentially looking to launch their product through an ICO? I have the pleasure today to have Corey from the DNA Fund right here with me in the eggshell fridge. Welcome, Corey.
Good to be here, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, man. Listen, I appreciate it. You're doing a doofer today, right? You're coming in, you're supporting us for the conference, so you're going to share with everybody just how they should act and feel and do everything else. And then you're also coming in here for a little podcast, so you can share with our people, just for everybody out there, what they should do if they're going to launch a podcast, if they're going to launch an ICO. So, question number one. I don't want to go too basic, but I would love to know what goes on inside your head. You must get approached on a daily basis by so many people. Firstly, maybe state when someone comes to you, what is it that really gets you excited about a particular ICO project? Now, I don't know if there's a list of 10 things or if it's intuitive or if it's based on before, but I would love to know that. And if you could incorporate in that also the types of business that you like investing in and what's good and what's bad.
Sure. A lot to unpack there.
But that should take us the whole half an hour.
Yeah, exactly. So let me just give a quick sense of flow and what it looks like sort of being in this space. And I come from the venture world and, have a piece of 18 venture-backed companies from investing and advising over the past few years and sort of made the shift over to crypto in a very fast 60 days from I think November 14th, I was 100% venture and 0% crypto. And January 15th of this year, I was 100% crypto and 0% venture.
You can't find venture anywhere on your site.
I haven't updated the site yet.
There's love in crypto.
Yeah. Anyway, at least my personal site is still unupdated. But and then just to step a little bit further back and give a little bit of the background on my activities. So I continue to invest and advise on my own as I always have. And then I'm spending an increasing amount of my time working with DNA Fund, which is sort of a major nexus activity in the crypto world, split between Puerto Rico and Santa Monica. Yeah. So our office here in Santa Monica is about a block away from Brian, you, and Expert Dojo.
Right? I know. First world problems.
I've already been here twice today, and I've been at my office twice today, and I'll be going back and forth the rest of the day. So it's nice to have this little beehive here by Ocean Avenue in Santa Monica. So deal flow, I would say I personally see probably I'd say like 30 to 40 just hit my inbox or my radar randomly over the course of a month.
Wow.
Of wannabe ICOs or in-progress ICOs or something like that. And then at DNA, we probably see another 100 a month. And then I would say we're probably actually investing, and I'd say about probably 2 a month out of DNA. And of course, I'm a participant in those. And then
what level of investments are you looking at?
I'll get there. And I was just going to say I probably do another 1 a month outside of DNA.
Okay.
So I'm probably, seeing, call it 100 to 150 a month and doing about 3 a
extremely
month.
active, yeah.
And the level of investment can vary widely. My personal amounts, I'll just keep to myself.
Of course.
Funds that we're doing with, DNA and our friendly funds, sort of under the model of, we're kind of like an SV Angel or an Andreessen Horowitz, where we're kind of first money in. And much more like Andreessen or like a first rounder or Lara Hippo Ventures, we have a big platform of services where after we invest, we go to bat for our portfolio companies and help them, accelerate on their path, basically.
Yeah.
And I would say, that DNA check size is usually in the, $250 to $1 million range. And then the total funding that comes, from us and friends can be in the $20 to $30 million range. Yeah. Depending on the project. Yeah. And we have one right now going on, Hashgraph, which is raising $200 million. And we were the first money in, and we're, actively supporting the team on their roadshow, et cetera. And, I think we already have the roadshow barely started, and we've already got about 165 million circled for that one.
Does it not seem, because you come from the venture world, doesn't it seem incredible to you that such large amounts of money are able to be raised for such early stage companies?
Yeah, it's because they're not being raised for the company. They're being raised for decentralized markets, decentralized ecosystems. So you don't want to be investing large amounts in startup companies. That's silly. Yeah. So if something looks like a company that just happens to be doing an ICO because they need the money or want the money for some reason,
which a lot try, right?
run far away.
If they can't raise money in angel, and they go, oh, you know what? I'm going to do an ICO.
Yeah, and that isn't to say that sometimes companies have embarked on the path toward an ICO from the starting point of just wanting to raise a lot of money. But what they find out over the ensuing 6 to 9 months of heading down that path, as they engage with people from the crypto universe and as they sort of get indoctrinated by reading the crypto canon, if you will, and if they actually get the religion and understand decentralization, they will start to see that it's only going to work, and you're only going to want to do it if it is truly going to be an open source decentralized project. Yeah. And you will have a separate structure and a separate team, and you will do one of two things in the end. One is you will completely decentralize the company and eventually hand over control of the company to your ecosystem. Yeah. Or you will build a protocol, and your company and many other companies will run on top of that protocol. That's two halves or a full dozen. It's really the same thing, but the point is you don't own it when you're done.
It's fascinating. And how do they come up with the values on this? Like 200 million, 400 million. Obviously, what Brock Pierce just raised, 1.5 billion. Is there a metric? Because obviously in standard venture, there's pretty simple metrics, right? You're in pre-seed, you're in seed, you're Series A, you got so much money, you got so much revenue. But this is a whole new world that it's so difficult to nail down what's worth what, when, and where it's going.
The models are significantly more complex than anything that we've dealt with before in the investing world. And they're absolutely not static. They're evolving constantly. I would say every 2 months, there's sort of like a step change evolution in how people are actually valuing these ecosystems and thinking about, essentially what will be the value of a currency in a given economy. And you have to factor in, the velocity of money. So if you have something that's worth $100, but, the currency is spent 100 times a year, you only need $1 for that economy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, totally.
So that's a super simplified way of looking at it. And then there are all kinds of efforts to apply either, Metcalfe's law or, just different ways to sort of factor in and try to value these economies.
But basically, we're learning in many ways as we go along, right? As we go from deal to deal, and we watch how they react to it, we watch how they spend their money, watch the speed of development. Yeah. We learn more and just get better at this.
Yeah. I mean, there are two types. There are two ways to approach this as an investor. One is to just sort of see what the market will bear. And let's call it like a sell side mentality. Yeah. And the other is to actually understand the fundamentals, and that's going to be much more around, hardcore research, and you're going to have game theorists and economists on your staff doing real deep buy-side analysis that's much more sort of like hedge fund quality. Yeah. And I would say the people that are looking for kind of social signals and understanding what will sell looks a lot more like traditional seed venture investing and angel investing. Yeah. And the sophistication level and the understanding of those two groups are markedly different. And it's not to say that some of the sort of, seed venture folks aren't leveling up, because they have, plenty of intelligence between the ears. Yeah. But early stage venture investing, I would say that, sort of soft skills, EQ, team, all those things are a lot more important. And just like front running the big firms that are going to come into like a large seed or a big A is actually much more a measure of how successful you're going to be.
Yeah, and it's kind of easy after a while, after you see a certain amount of venture backable companies, you see there's a trend. We even got to the stage in these podcasts where I did so many podcasts with so many great people in the venture space, you realize that pretty much we all think the same way. If you see a great team, if maybe they've exited, if they've got a good CTO, if the project looks like you can get a lot of users, if it's been validated. But within this space, there's so many variables to look at. And so do you position yourself with a specific types of sector, or is it just project by project and you see the project and it's a decentralized project and it's almost like developing a country, right?
Yeah,
and you take it one by one.
Each one ought to be sort of its own little economy if you're doing these things the right way, or they're on the path to being that. So I can't stop myself from caring a lot about the team. Okay. So that's my first filter. Yeah. It's like, am I impressed by this person or this team? Do I like what they've done before? Do they just wow me? Am I learning when I speak with them or when I watch them speak? Like those are always going to be my first filter.
And it's deep domain expertise as opposed to maybe exited before?
I love previous exits from the venture world coming into crypto. It's great. Like they've proven they can get something done. Like I that definitely factors in. I also like wily super geniuses from academia that really can talk, 6 ways from Sunday about deep crypto economic problems and
this is one of the few spaces
economies.
When we look at the ones who've become huge, there's actually a disproportionate amount of just crazy geniuses who have got these.
I think that's right. Or people who play them on TV.
Yeah.
And there are a good number of projects who kind of have that as well. There are a lot of like wannabe Vitaliks out there who don't actually have the goods.
Yeah, and you find it because we have one Xcoins, who are a Bitcoin marketplace, and it was really fascinating because I would continually say to Sergey, you got to come out, you got to see the market, you got to be seen by people. He says, I can't, I'm coding. I have teams of people are coding. And then what you notice is they're so different to any other entrepreneurs I deal with because they're so deep in building what they're building that it's almost a distraction to go through the process of what we normally do on a daily basis.
Where is that team located, by the way?
They're just across the road. They're over in the Rock Building on
That's
Ocean.
What I thought. Yeah, so you're not wrong. We've actually taken a few offices on that floor in addition to the whole downstairs. And I was laughing about that team recently because their office is right next to reception.
Right there, yeah.
And I literally know every other team and company working on the floor except for them. And they work in my space.
They're brilliant. They bring in $1 million a month plus in revenue on their existing exchange. They're going to do another one, which is crypto to crypto, and then decentralized, obviously, with ICOs. But they don't leave the office.
Right. Yeah, so I love that sort of team from the venture world as well. It's like, it's just such great signaling. Now I'm going to go and force myself through their sliding door and go say hi probably this afternoon. So thanks for that tip. I'm not surprised at all that that's what's going on there.
So you love the team. And it's really interesting because you love it. It's such a different type of team than what we normally love. We're normally looking for go-getters and people who go out who are backed up by great CTOs and backed up by good people around the team. But in this case, it's people like him who are just amazing, I don't know, world builders?
It depends. And maybe this is what drew me to crypto in the first place, but my first filter on venture-backed startups, all 18 of them are run by product or engineering people.
Yeah, right.
For me,
Yeah.
that was just my number one filter. And I think it was because I have a business background. And so I figured if I was going to get involved in an early stage company, I would be able to help enough there. But I need this other category, the other half of the company, the engineering and the product, totally handled by the founder.
Yeah.
And then I also just have a really strong bias toward the founders adding, let's call it network value in crypto or equity value in venture every time they sit down at a keyboard, which is not the case with like a salesperson or a business person. They always are reliant on somebody else to do the work that actually adds equity value. True long-term equity value is in the code in technology. Anyway,
it's like going into a video game, actually going into the space and finding out. So after the team and after we've got like that core person who's really good, what comes next?
So let's call it close to the metal. And I would use that in the sense of, is this something that in the next few years is going to matter, and where they can actually take advantage of some of the other infrastructure that's being built, or they're adding infrastructure to the world of crypto, whether you want to call it the Internet of Money or
so are they adding
Web
to the
3.0
disruption, or are they fighting the disruption?
Or really just like, are they going to be able to take advantage of the disruption in the next few years?
Yeah.
And with no sort of scalable blockchain out there for consumer applications yet, and we'll see what happens with the EOS mainnet launch this summer, which ought to be the first one. So many of these projects that are launching that are just like, hey, we have a marketplace, we should be able to spur growth of the network faster with the token, and it's like, you could just do that with points or better marketing. You don't actually need crypto for that. You don't see Airbnb rushing into this space because in their case, adding BNB token, well, that's taken by Binance, but if adding the Airbnb token to their ecosystem would create friction,
It would.
not
And
remove
also, to your point at the beginning, which I really like, is so many companies have just run in with a perfectly good product and said, oh, but it would be better if we had crypto because we can have micropayments that will just allow it. And micropayments are important, but just that on its own is not a reason to increase the value of your company by 15 times so that you can build a micropayment system inside. If you have a great business, like build and validate a great business. What you're talking about, which is really beautiful within the crypto space, is if you are building your own economy, your own project, your own unique special ingredient, which is going to change the way people are, then that's something which gets really exciting, but it's totally different.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. So I guess in that vein, then I guess the corollary is you want to only put your time and money into something that truly requires blockchain or DLT, distributed ledger technology, and a token for its ecosystem.
Where do you see it going?
What?
Fast forward. Everything blockchain in the next 3 to 5 years.
Just bigger and bigger and more. And that's not even a bet on the technology. It's a bet on using Occam's razor and like removing every other exogenous or intrinsic factor in the space. Like just the fact that all the talent, so much of the best talent is working on this, they will build cool things. So you can't not have a foot in this space if you are wanting to be part of, the coolest stuff going on.
Yeah, I love it. And for entrepreneurs who are listening all over the world and they feel, actually, I tick a lot of these boxes. I'm creating this phenomenal project with a phenomenal economy in this great space. How do you suggest they go about the fundraising process? Because it seems extremely transparent to some people and very confusing to a hell of a lot more people.
Okay.
Just a quick run through, because we've got 4 minutes left before I bring you inside and you're going to get on your panel, which sucks. But I'm going to be stalking you afterwards for a long time.
Okay.
Just the more you can give on that journey, the more helpful it would be.
Yeah, I think one thing that people are starting to realize is that it's a long process to get through an ICO, whatever you want to call it, token generation event, whatever.
Yeah.
Even if it's going to result in an airdrop where you give them all away for free, the point is you need to either already have a large community, in which case you've been working on this thing for years, or you need to build a large community that cares about you, not just potentially for the sale, because the sale may or may not involve a crowd sale.
Yeah.
It might just be done with funds at this point. That's where most of the money is coming from, from crypto funds and venture funds now. But also because once you go live, you need a large community of people that care, that want to use the token, that want to hold the token, that want to do things with it so that you actually have a real economy and a use for the token.
But what if you haven't built it yet? Like for the folks like Xcoins, it's easy because they have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. But for a normal person who's starting off their entire new community, do they have to build that community first before going on the fundraising? Yes.
Yes.
Just a pure yes.
Or during it. That's fine. And, so there are a host of areas that you're going to need to have resource and good performance, whether it's growth marketing or figuring out, your legal domicile structure, all of those sorts of things, your crowdfunding platform, if you're going to do that, how you're going to actually get in touch with, all of the funds and make a good case for your project. There's probably 10 to 12 different areas. And so what I like to say is if you're going to do an ICO, you're probably, and let's say you have an existing staff, you're going to triple staff for the next 6 months.
Okay.
Whether that's in or outside your walls,
because this is time
contractors, or
intensive,
whatever.
right? This is not just, it's a part-time extra thing I do, reach out to some investors, do my
Yeah, that's what I would say. I mean, I used to always say in venture, like when you're fundraising, you have 2 full-time jobs as a founder. I think when you're doing an ICO, you have 3.
Wow.
So it's another incremental 100% time allocation where you now have to find leverage and resource to be able to do that. And that's why I think you find such a large sort of service provider industry springing up around crypto, because these are harder projects than raising an A round or a B round or a C round or something. Like it's somewhere in between raising like a late stage venture round and going public.
While doing it really early.
While doing it super early.
Really early.
Well, in some cases, it's super early. In a lot of cases, like the better teams have been working together for quite some time.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have one person probably building the community, right? And then maybe we have another person.
You might have one person in charge of that, but you'll probably have like 5 or 6, FTE equivalents.
Yeah.
Working on that, whether that's across vendors or your own contractors.
Yeah, and I know it's a really dumb question, but how hard is it to build community? Is there a tried and tested way within this space, or is it just the same as what we have to do in the normal world?
It's fairly similar. I would just say it's a lot more developer focused, on average, because most of these projects are more like protocol-ish or platform-ish, and it's really about building the developer community.
Yeah. And with the investors, so you're building the community and you're building it through, imagine all of these forums that are out there and letting people see your project, getting them excited and getting them bought in. Are you doing the same thing with the investor community?
Yeah, I mean, I've always sort of tried to play like a little bit of a middle of the bow tie role, connecting great projects with great funding. Just that's one of the things that you typically do as an advisor to early stage companies is you do strategy and you do networking and BD and corp dev, fundraising, all that sort of stuff. And I think that's true of anyone who's sort of, first check into these projects. Like one of the things that's going to secure your funds and make your funds more valuable is making sure that other great investors get involved after you.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a big focus is networking with, let's call it the whole buy side as well.
Yeah. And when you're building your team, which is kind of for me the final part, are you looking to build people in who are highly respected by the investors? Maybe not for an exit, maybe not even being part of the team, but just as being people who can spot good ICOs?
Are you talking about on the fund team or on the
fund team.
ICO project team?
On your ICO project team.
On the ICO project team, don't worry about it. Ideally, you're all engineers and a product person and maybe one person that's done some sales and some BD. And, it's important that one of the founders either already be a good speaker or level up quickly so that they can tell the story.
Which is really hard. Because there's hardly one of them that are, because it's not why they are who they are, right?
It's true.
So it's maybe good to have other people part of the team that are good speakers that can help them. I sometimes find, like I don't keep picking on Sergey here, but I watch Sergey speaking, even though he's got way better at speaking.
Yeah.
It's not something he's comfortable at, but I sometimes find that even when investors look at him, it gives them more confidence in the fact that he's not a great, it's not his space.
So there are people that are just like completely useless in a meeting, and there are people that are kind of nerdy and introverted and, yet still you can tell they're very smart.
Yeah.
that latter category totally qualifies and is over the bar for what I'm talking about. Like, you hear, again, Vitalik speak about Ethereum and his goals and his dreams, and it may be a rough accent and it may be a little bit awkward, but the brilliance shines through, and that's enough. I would say
it's the why. Like, it goes. This space goes deeper into the why than any other area of venture I've ever been with. The people are more passionate, more dedicated, more 15, 20 hours. Like, it's just insane.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's you need someone on your team that's capable of sort of spurring a movement around them. Because one way to think about this is, instead of sort of let's call it a single hop sale that you have in the startup world, which is usually like you make a product and you sell it to customers, right? It's like one to many, or even if you're a marketplace, like you're just sort of building up the buy side and the sell side, whatever. This is more like starting a platform. It's a double hop sale. You need to basically throw a party and convince everyone that everyone else is going to be there. So it's building developer communities. It's platform wars. You have to think about like the Google Play Store or the App Store, or VHS versus beta. Like, that's kind of the way to think about these things. And that's why you see such massive promotional machines around the true platforms like Hashgraph, EOS, Ethereum with everything that Consensus does, Blockstack with their fund, sort of like promoting other projects that are building on top of Blockstack. Like, to get a platform off the ground, it's a double hop sale. That requires a promoter's mentality, and you have to throw a big party around it.
You have to build it around. Okay, so in summary, don't BS this. Investors can see straight through it. And by the way, as can you. If you have a real world product, just sell your damn real world product and build it the way you always built it before. If you're building a phenomenal community within an entirely new ecosystem, which requires decentralized and blockchain and everything that actually goes around it, then wonderful, follow that path. Build your community strongly. If your community won't follow you, the chances are you don't have something that should be followed. Make sure that with the investors that you're working with, don't try and not be you. Build a team around you that can actually make the ICO a success. An ICO is no different from an IPO. It's the same damn thing. You've got to go through the same process. And you do have, whether it's utility tokens or security tokens, you have to make sure that you do this thing by the book. So it's been awesome, Corey. Thank you, mate. We got some great tips, great tricks. I have some great companies that, and I'm sure we're going to build up a great friendship in the future. And I appreciate everything you do, mate. I love the fact you've jumped in the space.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. And I don't mind at all taking unsolicited emails.
Wonderful.
If it catches my interest, I'll find some way to support you and help you out. So
wonderful.
That's Corey, Cory, at dna.fund.
You're the man. That's it.
Flood my inbox. I don't care.
Finish on that lovely bit of pay it forward. Okay. Cheers, Corey. We're going to go into the conference now. Thanks, everyone. I hope you've learned a lot. Until next week. Thanks for joining us. If you know any other entrepreneur equally ambitious as you, then share this podcast by paying it forward to other entrepreneurs who are building your own army. Now, as always, our website, expertdojo.com, is packed with information to help you grow your business, find investment, and train for victory. We also walk our talk and invest in startups every year in our accelerator here in Silicon Beach. You can always reach out to me at brian@expertdojo.com, and I look forward to being back here again at our regular time next Tuesday, 10 a.m. with another of the world's top investors, helping you win the war against startup failure.